Hi, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today, in this episode of Moonlit Metaphysics, we're talking about the law of correspondence. Last week, we spoke about the law of mentalism, or the first Hermetic principle, the universal laws, if you will. And today, we're going to really dive into the principle of correspondence, in particular, how it connects with lots of scientific and like physics topics that are relatable and applicable and help you understand the concept in a better way than just saying as above, so below. That's what the principle is, as a matter of fact. So let's just dive in, because I don't know if you were on the last one, but my internet said nope and cut me off. I think it did it on purpose though, because I forgot a book and I had to go get it. So it's all in divine timing. All right, so understanding correspondence. The principle of correspondence is defined in the Kabbalion as above, so below, as below, so above, right? Again, this principle is discussing the harmony between the different planes of existence, physical, mental, spiritual, etc., emotional. You could throw that in there, and the principle refers to the microcosm and the macrocosm of life. Right. I was talking about the oracle at Delphi and how at the top of the temple of Delphi, where the oracles forecasted, foretold, all that stuff, gave insights. There's a saying that is a Delphic maxim as known as "know yourself," and essentially the idea there is by knowing yourself, you know all other things. By knowing yourself, to know thyself is to know God. To know thyself is to know the beginning of all wisdom. So uh, that a little bit of all in the all, right? So there's a little bit of the all in this little piece of the all. So by knowing how I work, how I think, how I function, how my emotions move, what energy feels like to me, how I perceive things, I can understand how others do the same. And that just kind of multiplies. I could then understand a whole bunch of other things. I could understand concepts of life in general. So a little bit of as above, so below, right there at the temple at Delphi. But lots of us we know have heard is probably have heard it be overused often, the as above so below thing. It's like a hashtag. I don't even think people know what they're tagging when they tag it. Sometimes I'm like, that video, what? Okay, as above so below. So hashtag, I guess people do it because it becomes trendy, like a lot of other spiritual topics and trends. But not too many people take the time to really dive in. What does that mean? As above, so below. Cool. Like macrocosms and microcosms. Like some of us didn't take physics. Like, what is that? So I want to discuss the connection between this Hermetic principle and modern science, because again, it helps you understand it better. So there's scientific topics that right off the bat, if you know anything about like fractals, holography, or systems theory, you already have an understanding of that as above, so below. But maybe what I said made absolutely no sense to you and you're like, what the fuck? No, you need to go deeper. So that's what I want to do today. And I have some things I want to share, because visually speaking, it helps. Like, visual aids are helpful in understanding these really abstract concepts. So I want to share some stuff with you today. But everything is energy, right? And if you pull up the electromagnetic spectrum on your own, you will see it's this kind of like wavy line that trickles off into lots of little waves at the end, right? All is energy, and this energy is just made up of different speeds, and the different speeds equals the different manifestations of what it is, right? Like what it becomes, what it turns out to be. So in the electromagnetic spectrum, specifically sound is in there in hertz. It's measured in hertz. It's like 440 hertz is the key A, the tone of A. That's standard pitch. If you want to go fancy or classical, you can say 432 hertz when everyone's talking about, oh, 432 hertz is better, it's more spiritually connected, it's more harmonious, it corresponds more to life systems and things like that. So even if you go 432 hertz and you place the note of A, right? Like you go on a keyboard and you press A, I don't know if that's the key, and it's 432 hertz, right? This pitch, if sped up like 40, 42 times octaves, will become such a fast energy that it creates a nanometer. It's no longer a hertz. They measure it in nanometers because it's so fast. This nanometer is actually visible. We can see it. It turns into visible light. So the note of A sped up, right? As above, so below, as below, so above, right? We're speeding it up, becomes the color orange. So there is a correspondence between the note A at 432 hertz, even if you do it at 440, it's still the same. And you speed it up 40 to 42 octaves, you get the color, the visible light spectrum of orange. As above, so below in regards to the note A. And all the notes, all the keys, they have a corresponding color. And that's kind of like a really great idea, a really great way to grasp this concept that there are things in life, and if everything is energy, they correlate with each other, they connect with each other. There are ratios, they're interrelated and interconnected. There are harmonious connections with these things. I would really love to show you that. Let me see if I got this time. All right, so hopefully you can see me. Hopefully you can see the screen, but this is essentially the color of sound. And I know a lot of you are going to say, hey, Alexis, I have a chakra sound bowl that is blue and it's supposed to be for the throat chakra. And it's the note of, I don't even know what note it is. It doesn't match. I have a book that says this chakra and the note and the color is this, and what you're showing me doesn't match. I respect you. What you are picking up on are other ancient or cultural correspondences to sound and color. What I am showing you is the scientific fact. So just bear with me real quick. Right here, we can see at the top of the color of sound, we can see that 440 is highlighted in yellow. So let's stay there because we were talking about the note of A. And when you speed up the note 40 octaves, you get the color orange. And then you can see how all of the other notes in the keys have a correlation or a corresponding color. Truly as above, so below. All you have to do is speed up energy to get this change. So that's just one aspect. Then you move into like understanding this just allows you to understand the implications of these parallels. There's just parallels of consciousness, parallels of reality that vibe together, right? Even though they're not the same thing, they vibe together. That reminds me of an experiment of the tuning forks. This is more about the law of vibration, which we'll talk about later, but it still corresponds. When you hit a tuning fork that is in a similar pitch, or in within the same note or tone as another tuning fork, the other tuning fork will start ringing. You didn't hit it. It didn't need to be hit. The corresponding waves of that first tuning fork kind of wake up. They activate the corresponding waves of the second tuning fork. That's something that you could practice at home. You can't really speed up hertz to a nanometer in your house. So that's a little bit, but trust me on that one. Another element that we can see this law of correspondence being manifested in our science is atoms. So just really quickly, the idea, the concept, and I know that you guys have probably seen pictures of this, subatomic particles just swinging around the nucleus of an atom, right? This looks very similar, corresponds, relates, resembles, is harmonious to the movement of the solar system, just the spherical movement of energy. Energy has a tendency to move like that in a sphere. That's why after millions and millions of years, matter conglomerates and creates spherical like bodies, right? Whether they be burning balls of gas or ice rocks, they have a tendency to correlate in a spherical nature. This spherical nature, there's a term for it in physics. It's literally the way energy moves, and it's called the torus field. And I talk a lot about this in my crystal healing classes, because it absolutely relates to crystal energy. And actually, we'll talk about crystals in a hot second. The law of correspondence is basically explained by this torus field. It's just because that's what energy does. So if it's starting at the microscopic subatomic particle level of moving like this, what do you think is going to happen when all the matter combines? It's still moving like this, right? A force is only stopped when another force acts upon it. So unless something stops that motion, that torus field is going to keep going. So whenever there's matter that has movement, like the earth is moving or there's like generation in the earth, right? There's a lot of heat, there's melting rocks in the middle, there's a lot of magma. Scientists speculate there's like an iron core that creates a lot of churning and moving. That movement is creating an electromagnetic field around the earth. That electromagnetic field is this torus shape that we see in physics. It's the same shape that we see in the subatomic particle structure of an atom. As above, so below, right? So the ancients been said it. They did not have microscopes last time I checked. That was like a 20th century invention. I think it was made in the 1900s. So they did not, ancients and past cultures and the philosophers of old did not have access to this knowledge to be so confident that there is this harmonious existence between these planes. Right? It is kind of mind-blowing. And that's why I love to mix the ancient and the modern. It's quantum magic for the mind, body, and soul, right? That was like a shameless plug. Let's talk about crystals, because I did mention that and I want to go back to that. Also highlighting the fact that ancient peoples had this innate knowing that is profound and really deserves us to pay attention to their work and their studies and their information. Just to throw out there, like the Platonic solids, Plato. So lots of Greek thinkers, the Greek philosopher Plato himself hypothesized in one of his particular dialogues that the classical elements, or like everything we know, like fire, water, air, earth, wind, all that jazz, is created, is created by these solids, these Platonic solids. Let me see if I can share that with you. Okay, yeah. So not only was he right, he had these 5 basic shapes, and you could probably Google Platonic solids and get yourself a little crystal set of the little 5 shapes. Sometimes they come in 7 because long story, but the sacred geometry, you include some of the morphs, polymorphs, etc. But the Platonic solids are these 5 shapes that Plato was like, yeah, no, every single thing in the world is built off of these shapes. Like everything that you see, everything that you think is based off of these shapes. And people were like, yeah, that's it. But the thing is that it wasn't, because look, I'll show you guys. Hopefully you can see me again. If you can't, I'm still getting used to the sharing on YouTube, so just let me know down below. But okay, like look at this. This is the subatomic structure for oxygen. Note its cubic form, one of the platonic solids. I don't want to get too deep. I'm going to just go through these because I can go down the rabbit hole. Silicon, iron. Iron becomes the octahedron, okay? Silicon was the tetrahedron. Iron is the octahedron. We start moving into the dodecahedron. We have this palladium takes the shape of the dodecahedron. Barium has similar shapes of the platonic solids. We see these platonic solids come up from, you know, of course, sacred geometry and microclusters, but we see it actually happening in subatomic particles. These cube octahedral structures of atoms. This is how atoms connect. It is, these are the basic building blocks of nature. As above, so below, dead ass. This is another tetrahedral structure. These little octahedrons. It just keeps going, guys. This is a virus. And as we get into larger shapes, larger creatures like ocean organisms, microscopic still, but bigger than atoms, we start seeing them manifest as whole entire shapes. This is a dodecahedron. Okay. As above, so below. These are organisms, bacterial, viral, ocean organisms. There you go. Here's our pyrite. Pyrite is a master at polymorphing. So that means that pyrite, while it has a cubic structure atomically, it has a similar structure to the oxygen that we saw at the beginning. It can morph into different shapes. It's a quasi-crystal. I think it says it right there. And this quasi-crystal, this morph is in a dodecahedron shape. And these grow naturally out the ground. This is not lab created. This is natural. We have an octahedron shape over here, or icosahedron, dodecahedron, a cubic shape over here. It's crazy. It really is the macrocosm and microcosm. So that blows my mind. Not to mention these platonic solid shapes are the fundamental building blocks of, yes, all things, but like crystals. Crystal energy is included in this law of correspondence. It's all about fractals. So mathematical shapes that have a repeating pattern. And what is a crystal? Okay, if you don't know, the definition for a crystal is basically an inorganic solid that has a geometric lattice structure, a repeating microscopic pattern. So if one of the atoms, let's take pyrite, for example, which has a cubic structure, if one of the atoms is a cube, like the protons in the nucleus of the atom connect like a cube. So in oxygen, there's 8 protons, and that's why those protons link up like a cube in the middle of the nucleus. Then it starts to amplify, because that's what a crystal does. It's a repeating pattern on a geometric lattice system, solid. So this is a solid amplifying, growing, literally, this cube shape. That's what it does. Is literally the law of correspondence in physical form. So in the case of a quartz crystal, when this is a natural, albeit polished piece, the quartz crystal is a trigonal structure, which substructure is hexagonal, which means 6-sided, right? And then what do you know? Our quartzes grow in hexagons, 6-sided. Can we see those 6 sides right there? You can count them. Go ahead. I dare you. Grab your quartz. Grab a natural quartz points that you have in your house. Even this guy that's all Lemurian and funky and has its own like vibes going on. I can count them sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As above, so below, baby. So Understanding the scientific versions of these principles allows you to really appreciate them in your everyday. How do we apply it to our spiritual practice though? Like, great, Alexis, I learned so much science today. I'm so much smarter. And what does that do for me? Well, if you if you want to apply it to your spiritual practice, the concept really can bump up all types of magical work, spiritual work, ritualistic, ceremonial stuff that you do. If you understand that everything is connected, everything is energy, and everything has something corresponding to it that can amplify it, like those tuning forks, not at the same frequency, right? Some that one was a lower hertz, albeit in a similar octave. You ring one, the other one starts to vibrate. If you did that with ones that didn't correspond, ones that did not have a similar octave, different pitches but the same key, or I should say like completely different keys, that experiment would not be successful because they don't correspond. So there's things in life that correspond to one another, right? When doing ritual practices, spiritual magic work, any type of work in that vein, you're going to want to know the correspondences to your particular intention. Knowing what I call it, adding layers, adding magical layers. Knowing what, first of all, let's back up and talk about successful magic, right? Now let's get into our witch shit real quick. Step one, mentalism. That's why my very first YouTube live, my very first Moonlit Metaphysics episode was about the Hermetic principle of mentalism. Be in the right mental state and have the appropriate aligned set of beliefs for your intended intention. If that's not happening, forget about manifesting anything. And I'm not even talking about magic shit. I'm talking about life goals at this point. Okay, so I forgot where I was. They threw me off. No, but the knowing, having the correct mental state is going to be step one. You have to have that aligned set of beliefs in order to do any of this manifestation work, any of this I did it work. You want to be successful in your goals, your mind got to be right. Point. Step number two is correspondence. If you're doing a spell, a ritual, a petition, if you're just praying, but you need or want to put the action steps, because, right, we live in a three-dimensional world, we have to put in those three-dimensional action steps, or ain't nothing three-dimensional going to pop off for us. Adding layers of corresponding energy that are harmonious to that intention are going to bump it up. What does that mean? Oh, I light a candle. Great. What color is the candle? Oh, so you also picked a color that is in alignment to your intention, corresponding color. And I put some oil on it. Oh, okay. Is that oil in alignment to your intention? Corresponding oil. You feel me what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this? Adding layers of corresponding energy is going to bump it up, be it a crystal grid, using crystals, using affirmations, working with specific deities or spirits that represent the archetype of the intention that you're trying to set. Plants, herbs, colors, scents, sounds, all of these layers, all of these things in life correspond. There are correspondences to one of these things, one or another, right? Come in the book that I almost forgot to bring. The complete book of correspondence, So You Shall Never Be Lost. A witch's like mandatory foundational text. You must have this in your witchy toolbook. Bro, do you see this? Now that's a book, okay? Now what this book is great of doing, let's just bet. Talking about crystals, because that's how life is. We have citrine over here. Can we see that? So we have the citrine, and it's going to go ahead and list all of the corresponding energies that are corresponding and harmonious to the citrine crystal. For example, you want to work with citrine crystal, or let's say you want to do solar plexus stuff and you're like, oh, I know that solar plexus is yellow and I have this yellow citrine. Great. But solar plexus, yellow, it's also connected to the sun, to Mercury. It's also connected to the number 1 and the number 6. It's also connected to the magician card of the tarot deck. So we can go deep. We can start adding layers. And that's why understanding this principle can make your work as a practitioner, as a spiritual individual, as a witch, that much more powerful. Okay. Also, don't sleep on the fact that our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, how we think, the internal, right? Know thyself is a reflection of the external world, and vice versa, right? So, bringing to mind a Carl Jungian concept, perception is projection, right? So what you think is happening is based on your current set of beliefs and where you are mentally at the moment. Like, everything is about the way we react to it, right? Perception is projection. So if there's a way to think about something differently, then maybe we might start to see it differently, and we might feel different about it. We might feel better about it. We can be really worried about something, or we can channel that worry into excitement and hope for something, you know? So that is also an element of the law of correspondence that is important to your magical practice. It really leans back into mentalism, and that's why we started there. But understanding that how you're perceiving things is probably most likely because of the way you're thinking about things. The way you're understanding stuff is because of what's happening in here. The external things you're perceiving is based on what you feel inside, and vice versa too. As above, so below, so below, as above. Synchronicities. This is also a part of correspondence. Sometimes spirit will talk to us in these types of synchronicities, and we have to kind of be able to understand, oh, that's that's connected to this. I know, because I know that this is a corresponding energy. So spirit is telling me with butterflies, but butterflies actually is my grandpa, because that one time we caught butterflies. I don't know. You feel me? Corresponding energies. And this is how you can develop your spiritual practice with this law. Practical exercises and applications. What do we do? Like, how do we use this in? Great, I know the science. I could do the magic. If I don't want to do the work, really, what does this do? Or let's not say. Let's say you want to do the work. How do you do the work? How do you practically do the work to connect more with this concept of corresponding energy? Right? Like I said, you can't speed up the sound note of A to see the color orange. I don't think you have that tool set in your crib right now. But you could do other things to tap into the corresponding principle. For example, things like different holistic healing practices, things like yoga. Yoga is not just moving the body. Yes, it's definitely about moving and the asanas, but it's also about the prayamanas, which are the breath aspect of yoga. And so there are particular moves. Let's say you want to deal with something on the real reality physical plane, like just increasing your creative energy, right? Like, you're in a creative slump. You're a writer per se, an artist of some kind, and you're like blocked, right? You want to unblock that. So yeah, you grab that crystal that you heard that is good for that, and you are, you're lighting that candle that says, I'm a creative bitch, and you're saying your affirmations. But you can also dive into another element of correspondence on the physical level with different healing modalities like yoga. There are asanas or movements that are very much targeted to specific energy centers of the body, or treatments like acupuncture, where they target energy on the particular meridian lines that are in alignment, again, to your intention, that correspond to what it is that you're trying to do, to your ultimate goal. There's also just like mindful reflection. Again, remember that perception is projection, like Carl Jung said. Everything that you perceive outside of you, situations, circumstances, events, etc., are all a projection from inside of you. So checking yourself, like if you're finding yourself to be in a funky emotional state or blaming external circumstances, like for some reason everything out there is to blame and it just is not me, like I don't even fucking get it, you're going to want to check yourself, because there's that fundamental law of correspondence. Something in here is not in balance to what you're trying to see out there, and so it's not manifesting as such. Recognizing those correspondences between your inner states and your external states, your external relationships, your circumstances, etc. Okay. That's real world work. Less magic-y, but things like that. Connecting with nature, you can absolutely see the law of correspondence, especially when talking about fractals in nature. As above, so below. You can see how these little tiny petals start to like amass and become this big sunflower, but they're all the same shape. And it's like a beautiful thing to spend time and observe that interconnectedness that all living things have. It helps you physically connect to the law of correspondence in a different way. You feel me? By immersing yourself in that natural world. So yeah, different things like that. And then literally setting intentions and manifesting your goals, because that's what it is. Like, we can do the magic aspect and do a spell work or petition a deity or energy spirit to do some work for us, right? Or then we can also like plan our own goals. I would say do both in tandem. I like adding those layers, correspondence, but setting goals with mindful awareness of how you can align your everyday life to manifesting those goals. Like, I want to drink more water, so I'm gonna go ahead and buy myself a bigger thing to hold more water in, so that when I do serve myself water, I'm probably drinking more servings at a time. But this one's cute though, so we'll let that one rock for now. All right, guys. But that's all I had today for the law of correspondence. I hope that made a little bit more sense. I hope that allowed you to connect more to this kind of abstract, as above, so below, poetic kind of thing. It goes much deeper than that, and we are absolutely interconnected in a very real and tangible way through this law of correspondence. But if you guys have any questions, please drop them down below. If you're watching the replay, please do the same thing. I love to answer questions. I am an educator at heart. So raise your hand, drop it down below, and I will follow promptly with an answer. If I don't know, I will figure that shit out. We'll figure it out together. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Peace and love. I'm Alexis, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.